All right. Hey, welcome to AI Chatter. This is going to be the Mitchell-less version of AI Chatter this week. Marty and I are going to go back and forth and talk a little bit about Snowflake's new offering called Arctic, some of the features inside of Cortex, and then turns out the rabbit, that's what it's called, right, Marty? The
The
rabbit's
rabbit.
not doing so hot. So that and more right now. All right, this will either be super fast without Mitchell, or just run off the rails, and we'll have Fred come in and give us the hook. So hey, Marty, good to see you. I think some of the people out there everybody who's listened to this has heard my background a few times before. Been in data science technology for a long time. Was an academic, was a college professor before that, and been with Archetype really almost 3 years now. And so even in the 3 years, we started out in forecasting and machine learning, and now all of a sudden everybody's talking generative AI and LLMs and all this other stuff. It's a fun time. Marty, introduce yourself for the folks that don't know you.
Hey, everybody, Marty Galp. Been with Archetype about 2 years. I get to work with Ken, and we just get to have a lot of fun here, riffing back and forth about the latest in AI, and actually get to make fun of some of the failures too.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
mean,
kind of interesting.
funny, so some of those failures, Marty, you mentioned there's a kind of a kitschy little device called the Rabbit that came out that was supposed to change the way that people worked with AI, and we all probably knew that was going to be a joke. But what's not a joke is that last night, Apple, that little fruit company out west, they come out and they say that their revenue was, at first time in a long time, had declined year over year, or actually quarter over quarter, adjusted. But they're basically now in a position where they believe that AI is the path. They're going to invest like crazy in that path. So what does that make you think of, Marty? I mean, do you think is this a hype thing, or is this just we're at the beginning of an iceberg? And then we'll talk about Snowflake.
Well, I think everybody wants to stake their claim in the AI continent, and Apple's coming a little late to this, which is kind of ironic because I mean Siri was like probably one of
Yeah.
the first AIs, and it shows how quickly the mighty can fall from this area.
Oh, and because they own that device market and they can pivot and fix it very quickly, believe they will, and
Yep,
they'll probably implement it in a great way, and it will change the world.
exactly.
Um, uh,
I'm not an Apple user,
yeah,
but I will give the devil its due. Their device, they've got that sucker down solid, and that's
but yeah,
the user experience. I mean, what you mentioned early on, the Rabbit experience was an epic fail. I mean, there's going to be case studies written about that one. I guarantee it. But it is, and if you're interested, folks, there's an article. I think it's in The Verge. We'll link to it here. Um, I mean, they don't mince words. It's pretty bad.
well, when your entire promotion, like your company is a promotional scheme, and then
Mhm.
I was not surprised. I guess wildly successful. Whatever marketing they did was
Yeah.
a positive. But back to Apple for a second. I was never a really big Siri user, but now having used ChatGPT and any form of an LLM, um, and then you go back to Siri and you just think, wow, this thing is a pile of garbage. And
But Siri's been around for how many years? I mean, again, give them their credit. I think Siri's like 10 years old, isn't it?
well, Siri's 10 years old, but I'm saying, like, swapping out the parts here wouldn't be that difficult. You shouldn't
Yeah,
be that difficult to do, right?
exactly. Yeah.
We've had a lot of this stuff around for some time, but we still have a substandard calendar. We still have substandard invitations and to-do lists and all these other things. But that said, watch out! don't poke the bear, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's it, and I can't believe my wife listens to this, and she's not going to believe that I'm defending Apple. But yeah, they're capable of
They're,
doing this. I
they're
think
kind of
Samsung
like,
put AI on their latest phones. I have a Samsung. I haven't played with it yet. I don't know what it's really capable of, but I mean, the bottom line is if you're not doing AI nowadays, I don't care if you're in the waste management business.
yeah,
You've got to do
yeah,
AI. Everybody's got
you,
to get in on this.
you got to go. In fact, we just got off, Marty, you and I, an internal call, and we were looking at some of the new Snowflake features. And and of course, for those of you that don't know, Archetype is a diversified data and analytics consultancy. So we have folks that specialize in data engineering, and then you have folks like Marty and I are more data science predictive modeling. To watch data engineering types for the first time call and use a predictive model with and now all of a sudden you can just you can see these bulbs go off, like, oh,
Oh yeah,
I can take any field and do sentiment analysis or topic extraction, or I mean, it's the things that you and I we talked about for years, like, oh, you could do this, but now they're like, oh, it's easy, so let's
Well, but why is it so easy? Because Snowflake made it so that you can basically use the SQL language, structured query language, to access LLM capabilities. I mean, back to our Apple discussion, it's all in the user interface. And that's what companies have to realize is Ken and I are nerds. We'll talk to you about neural nets and what goes on below the surface of an LLM, but 99.9% of the population doesn't give a crap about that. They want, I talk to my data, it gives me results. And Snowflake figured that out with Cortex. They have, I think, 5 or 6 functions. Is it going to solve everything? Of course not. But it's going to solve probably 80% of your problems. And hey, I'll take that market share. That's not a
so
bad.
so speaking of Snowflake solving some problems, so the Cortex environment's been out for a while now. For those of you that are unfamiliar with basically what that is they've taken a lot of the open sourced LLM models, loaded them up into the Snowflake environment, and have made them basically function calls that you can apply. So think OpenAI, ChatGPT like activities, but all within the Snowflake environment. And of course, that's enabled by the fact that Snowflake has some GPUs in their environment. They've taken these giant LLM models, and when I mean giant, we have like terabytes big models, put them up in those environments, and then you let them be used as function calls. What's important and why you wouldn't necessarily, it's a bit mechanical in nature, but those models are hosted inside the Snowflake environment. So if you use Snowflake data to call those models, nothing's leaving the space. It's not going to Microsoft. It's not going to OpenAI. It's sitting in one spot.
And that's huge. I mean, we cannot understate that because the security around your data is so important. And that's the problem with ChatGPT. If you put something in a prompt, it's out for the world to see. And Snowflake has figured out a way around it. Well, they're not the only ones, but they're the elephant in the room who's figured this out.
They have the data, right? And so then that becomes the arms race is who has the data to do the work. Now, I'm still excited. We were hard on Apple, and I think rightly so, and we're just kind of disappointed. I still want to see Snowflake do more with the structured data approach. It's not. I'm not saying it's trivial to do text extraction stuff, but it's trivial. Like those image and text has been done, and it's easy to do as a function call.
Yep.
It's way harder to have your revenue data and then have a smart tool that can understand your revenue data. I want to see them do that. And I know that's a hard problem, but somebody's got to do it out there. Yeah. Marty, what do you think of Arctic?
It's really cool. I mean, Arctic is basically Snowflake's own language model. And since they built it, they own it. It's in their system. And right now, it's a very limited availability. Right now, it's free, which is big plus. You don't have to pay for it. But of course, that'll change eventually. What'll be interesting to see, how does it compete? I mean, Chat GPT, we're on 4. 5 is on the horizon. I heard some people talking the other day that 5 is going to be like game-changing capabilities. We've talked about, just look how far these things have come. How is it going to compare? And that's really what's happening is you're seeing this arms race happen in the language models. Who can make a better language model, and then a language model becomes a commodity at that point, and the rest of it are just accessing it.
It seems that the open sourceness of it is really, I feel like it's taken off a smidge, because I would suspect that for some of these tools, they started with another one, right, and then just worked it a little bit more, mm-hmm. And we're starting to see, everybody's got their own flavor, and it's going to be the most cost effective in their particular environment.
The open source thing is interesting because Zuck just open sourced all of his stuff on Facebook, and that sent. The VCs in Northern California saw their portfolios go from, billions to nothing overnight because they're investing in a lot of these companies that are building their own language models. And if stuff goes open source, you don't need it anymore. I think what I've heard is closed source is still slightly ahead of open source, but the gap is getting smaller. And it's getting to the point where Ken and I love to talk about statistical significance, but there's something also called practical significance. Even if you can show statistically you're better, but practically there's no difference, who cares? Yep. Who cares?
Oh man, I remember writing those papers, and I could find statistical significance, but when you turn that into a number that it was so infinitesimally small that
exactly.
Who cares? Who cares? Yeah. All right. Well, anything else from the news this week that we think we should to talk about?
No. We'll be for those of you out there in the world, we're going to be out at a bunch of conferences coming up. It's conference season. If you're a OneStream Splash guy and you want to stop by our booth at OneStream and let me see. I get this cities mixed up. I think OneStream's in Las Vegas, and the Snowflake Summit is in the beginning of June, and that's in San Francisco. Come and check us out. We'd love to meet you, shake your hand. We'll sign whatever you want. I know we're
maybe we'll do the show live from the floor. So
that's right. We'll do a show. There you go. But seriously, every week something new comes out, and it's just awesome to see. So much fun.
Not hard to find content. All right, folks. Mitchell will be back next week.
Unless we replace him with an AI.
At this point, let's get a little avatar. We'll make a digital Mitchell. All right. Anyway, thanks so much. We'll see you.